Hello, my name is Austin. I'm a self-taught sewist, and today I'm going to make the Wardrobe by Me Chino pants. So I'm super excited to make these Chino pants out of this stretch corduroy from Blackbird Fabrics. It's really soft. The color is beautiful. It's called boysenberry. I mean, they pretty much have the best names for their colorways. And I'm also gonna do the pocket lining out of this beautiful kind of galaxy print with gold shiny little flecks that my boyfriend gave me. It's not going to be seen too much from the outside, but I think it's going to be a really special and unique addition to the pocket lining and maybe the interior of the waistband. We'll see. I'm excited about it though. So one last thing before we get started is that I'm going to talk about my mock-up. So I did end up doing a mock-up out of a thrifted sheet and some bright pink thread here. I did that so I can really see the details of the stitching, see what I need to work on. And of course, I wanted to do a mock-up because especially with a new pattern that I'm trying out, I want to test out the fit and any new skills that I might be learning. For example, single welt pockets, which I had never done before. I learned in this 1 year, just over 1 year that I've been sewing, that really taking your time to measure your own body and then do a mock-up to test fit and work on any new skills is vital, especially when you're using maybe more expensive fabric. And it's honestly worth it to make something that you're actually going to wear and actually looks right and fits right on your body. But now we can finally get started. Okay, let's go. So I went ahead and finished some edges on my facing pieces, small pocket, big pocket facing. For this, I actually just did a little fold over on the edge and sewed. You can see because of the wale of the corduroy, it actually left a wavy edge, which I'm not too mad at. I rather a wavy edge than a raw edge there. So I'm okay with that. And then for the back pocket, welt pocket facings, it actually did a really tight zigzag stitch. You can see there's a couple fuzzies coming off, but mostly that's because of the pile from this corduroy, from the wales of the corduroy. But it looks pretty good. I'm just going to trim some fuzzies off and they'll be ready to go. So now that I have the facings on the pocket bag for the small pocket and for the large pocket, this is where I'm going to make a slight adjustment. So on this step, you would put them together right sides facing and then sew zigzag or serge around the bottom here. I am going to try a French seam here. So I'm actually going to put them right sides facing out. I'm going to sew a small seam all the way around and then I'm going to flip it inside out and sew again so the raw edge is caught in the seam. So here is the front side of one of the front panels for our pants. And we have our finished pocket bag here that matches up with this side. So as you can see, there's slants here and here on the front. So these will get sewn right sides together from the notch to the top. And then that gets folded over like this and top stitched. And that becomes the slash of our slash pockets in the front of our pants. Let's do it. So now I have a finished front to my pants. You can see that the fly piece is interfaced. We've got our slash pocket right here that we just sewed all the way down. I went ahead and basted all of the layers together, so the front and the pocket piece is at the top here. And then I did some extra stitching right there at the bottom of the pocket just to reinforce that. And we are ready to move on to the back pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and mark my dart and where my pocket is gonna be. I cut and folded back these pieces of the pattern so that it would be easier for me to mark. So I'm just gonna go through and mark these. I will also mark the stitching line for the welt pocket on the pocket bag. So I'm going to mark this out here, and this time I'm actually going to use a ruler because this is where I'll actually be stitching. Just happens on one side of the pocket bag. So we are officially ready to start our welt pocket construction. So I have my back piece and my welt pocket bag pinned together, well clipped together, both right sides facing up. So now I have our little rectangle that we traced earlier from our pattern, and we're just going to stitch all the way around that first. So now we have our welt pocket bag sewed onto the back piece, and we have this rectangle here that we sewed around. Now I already snipped into this. We're going to go ahead and cut this open very carefully. When we get to the corners here, we're going to snip at an angle as close as we can to the corner without snipping the stitching line. Now, this is important for having the pocket lay flat, the welt lay flat. Well, not the welt, but the opening of the pocket. Get nice and close without cutting the stitching, and we'll do the other side. Now I've got my welts all folded up. It's a little wobbly. I can try to fix that while I'm stitching, but it's not going to be perfect. One of my first attempts at a welt, so I think that's okay. The first thing I'm going to do is stitch across the bottom here just to hold that in place. And then we fold up the pocket bag, close it off on the sides, and then flip it back to the front and finish around the edges and top, and our welt pocket will be done. Okay, I am all done with my welt pockets. I've stitched all around the opening here. I would say that because the fabric is so thick, it's a little more wobbly than I would like, but I'm okay with that. Because again, this is one of my first attempts at a welt pocket, so I'm happy with my progress so far. And I did also go ahead and sew the two backs together. I sewed them along the center back, right sides facing, and then I went ahead and did a zigzag stitch to close up that seam, and top stitch on the left side of the seam like the instructions say, all the way down so I can leave that seam nice and flat against the back. Now we are ready, I think, to put the zipper in. Let's go. It's a new day, and we are past what I think is the most difficult part of making these chino pants, and that's the welt pockets. And we're on to the zipper, and after that it's putting all the pieces together, putting on the waistband, and we'll be done. We've got this edge here nice and zigzag stitched, so it's going to be clean and finished. And then I'm going to take my pattern piece here, and I've already hole punched where that dot is at the end of this stitching line. So I'm going to go ahead and just transfer that over right there. Now I'm going to place the two front pieces right sides together, and I'm going to stitch from here all the way up to that dot. I'll do some back stitching there, and then I will just continue up and baste all the way to the top here. So I did my stitching all the way down here. Here's my little dot. Did stitch over the pocket bag like the pattern shows. So now we're going to open this piece up, and we're going to press open here, and then we're going to turn it around and top stitch this seam on the right hand side. So I've done my top stitching. You can see, we can't really see, but there is some top stitching all the way down. You can see why I trimmed this little piece though, or else it would have attached to the fly piece here, this little seam allowance, and it wouldn't have laid as nice. So I can always do some more stitching just right here to keep that down. I do have an extra long zipper, so pay no mind, I will shorten that later. But I've got the zipper pinned up against the fold of the two fly pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and switch to my zipper foot and stitch all the way down this right side of that zipper. Okay, we've got our zipper sewn down on this right side, so now we're going to flip it to the front here, right side up. This piece is still left loose. This is folded back, and now we're just going to top stitch all the way down to the bottom here, right along that edge. And after that, we will turn this way. So here's that top stitch. So now we're going to turn this and stitch the zipper down here to the other side. Okay, so the zipper is sewn in on both sides now. I did go ahead and just trim the zipper and do some stitching across. Since it's a little raw, I might put just a little tab of fabric, like a little binding there, just to keep it clean. Now the next thing we're gonna do is do our top stitching to secure that fly down. Okay, we have the top stitching done for the zip fly. It's a little hard to see just because the thread is the same color as the fabric. So now I'm going to move on to the fly extension, or the fly shield. So we're going to stitch right sides together all the way down this curve. And now I think I'm also going to stitch this side because it has you serge that in the pattern, but because I don't have a serger, I can just zigzag stitch, but I think I want it really clean there, so I think I'm just going to sew all the way around and then turn it inside out and press so it's clean all the way around before I um, attach it to the back side of the fly here. All right, our fly extension or fly shield is ready to go. This is where our serged side would have been, but we are going to go ahead and add it on to this side of the inside of the fly. We've got our fly shield on. I'm really happy that I closed that seam up here because it's much cleaner than my mock-up where I just zigzagged the edge. So I'm happy with that. Now it's time to turn this over and we're gonna unpick this basting stitch right down that seam all the way to the end of the zipper fly. Okay, and I'm gonna clean this up, and the pattern calls for a couple of bar tacks here and here, which is pretty typical for a zip fly just for strength, but look at that. We have a fully functional zip fly. Gorgeous. Okay, before I move on to putting the front and back pieces together, I'm just gonna bind off the little end of the zipper. So I've got a little square of my lining fabric, and I'm gonna place that under, and fold these over, fold in once, and then all the way up to the top. And I'm gonna go ahead and sew around the sides and the top there. And then our zipper is nice and bound, so we don't have any raw zipper edges kind of getting messy on the inside. Okay, we've finished our welt pockets, we've finished our zipper fly, and we are ready to put together the front pieces and the back pieces. And this just happens to be the part of these pants that I've been thinking about a lot. I've been laying in bed trying to fall asleep and thinking about how I'm going to finish these side seams. Yes, that's where I'm at. But I think I've got a solution. So here's my solution, is to do some bound seams, bound flat felled seams. You can see here that the seam is bound with our lining fabric and then sewn so it's flat felled against those leg pieces. What I've done, or what I'm gonna do, is I have my back piece and my front piece clipped together, and along the edge I also have the binding clipped here. So I'm gonna sew at the seam allowance all the way down, and then I'm gonna trim the seam allowance. I'm gonna take that and wrap it around the seam and then edge stitch so it fells it down flat. I'll show more details as I go through this process too, but I think it's going to be the cleanest way to finish these side seams. Okay, I've trimmed my seams, and I've got my binding piece here, my trimmed seam, and I'm going to wrap that binding around the trimmed seam, and I'm just going to edge stitch all the way down, and then my seam will be nice and closed up. So I think I can say that this binding, or deciding to do the binding, was a great idea. It was a little finicky just because I only cut it an inch wide, but like, first of all, look how cool that looks. And second of all, it's nice and flat, and the raw edges are really secure, and it's really cleaned up the edge of the slash pocket, the front pocket, all the way down to the side. So I'm super happy that I went ahead and did that binding. And I'm going to do the other side, and we'll be well on our way to finishing up these pants. And yes, doing the second side with that seam binding is a little trickier, because you have closed the other side already, but since the inseams are open, it's totally manageable. We got this. Okay, so I went ahead and did the inseam, and I did a nice French seam there, so all the raw edges are enclosed in the French seam. I sewed it together right sides out, and then turned it inside and did another stitch on the inside to close up that raw seam and finish the French seam. And we're ready to do some belt loops and put on the waistband, and we will be almost done. Okay, I'm ready to sew my waistbands. I've got the short waistband, and this is going to be, the lining fabric's going to be the inside of the waistband, and then I've got the outside, and I'm going to sew these together on the edge, and then sew them both together long ways. I have the waistband into the waist of the pants. I've opened the zipper up, and they are right sides facing. So the outside is facing the outside of the pants. I'm going to sew this on, then this just folds over, and we've got a waistband. I have flipped the waistband right side out here, so outside and inside, and I've pinned it all down. You can see this edge I folded over, folded under. I pinned it all down because now I'm going to stitch in the ditch along the seam here from the top, and secure the waistband down. So wish me luck. Our waistband is done. Admittedly, my weakness is stitching in the ditch from the top and missing all of the fabric underneath, so I did have to go back and fix it just to catch all of that fabric, no matter how neatly and nicely I pinned it, but that's something I'm going to work on for next time. Um, but you can see this contrasting fabric, I think, looks really nice. And now we are ready to put in our buttonhole and our button and put on some belt loops. Then we just have to hem the pants and we're done.